Hello and welcome to Classic Vinyl Podcast. This is the podcast where we listen to and review songs and albums from the classic vinyl era of the 60s and 70s. And we are on to another episode of our Meet The Beatles series. Today we are tackling the great album Revolver. I'm one of your hosts, Justin. And for the first time in the last few episodes, I'm once again joined by my co-host that everybody seems to think he's lazy, but he doesn't mind. He thinks they're crazy. Tyler's back.
I'm the friendly stranger in the black sedan. Won't you step inside my car?
That was a couple episodes back.
Yeah, I think that's one of the last ones I was present for. I'm sorry that I have missed out. And I am the one who missed out, not the listeners.
You did miss out.
Yeah.
So we're doing our Meet the Beatles series again. Of course, the four lads from Liverpool, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. My favorite band, what I consider the best band in the entire world, and something I'm trying to get Tyler convinced of as well. We're working on it.
You really do like the Beatles, don't you?
A tiny bit.
I think we should explore that.
You know, I think we will, and that's something we're going to get to later in this episode. But we're going to explore Revolver now, and as we are recording, we normally don't say when we're recording, but we are recording on August 5th of 2026. Revolver was released 60 years ago to the day we are recording, and that's just a complete coincidence because obviously we're doing all the Beatles in chronological order, and this is the one we're on to next.
Yes, it is. We're right on schedule.
So let me give you a little history on the album Revolver. This is the Beatles' seventh studio UK album. It was released on August 5th of 1966, recorded at EMI Studios between April and June of 1966, of course produced by George Martin. And this is actually the first Beatles album to feature Jeff Emerick as the record engineer, and he had actually replaced Norman Smith. Now this album was recorded after roughly a 3-month break by the band, which doesn't seem like a huge break, but you know, that's the longest break this band had had in 4 years.
Yeah, these guys were pretty much living together.
Yeah, and when they were recording this, they were still touring, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw the movie Help. They were, like, right together.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is an album that I absolutely adore if you've listened to any of our other episodes, but I'm a sincere Beatles apologist, so I adore pretty much everything they do. There are some things I don't, and when we get to them, I'll note them, but this is one of my favorite albums, and I've said many of times that I have several favorite Beatles albums, just depending on my mood. This one, always, I'm in the mood for. And this is an album that really marked a major leap in studio experimentation, including tape loops, backwards recording, close mic'd instruments, all kinds of things like that. And the one thing you got to realize is April to June of 66, when they were recording this, in May of 66 is when Pet Sounds came out.
Ooh.
Now, Brian Wilson has stated that Rubber Soul had a huge impact on Pet Sounds, which I think Pet Sounds had a huge impact on this album and obviously on the next studio album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
These guys are laying stepping stones upon stepping stones for each other, it seems.
I'm damn glad they did.
Me too.
So the cover art on this thing, it's kind of cool. Tyler can see it up here on the wall, the Revolver. It's created by Klaus Vormann, pretty much pen and ink line drawing, kind of in a photo collage style. And it's a pretty interesting album cover, really. Probably one of their neatest ones up until this point. And the cover actually won the 1967 Grammy Award for Best Album Cover of the Year for Klaus Vormann.
Okay, I believe that.
Yeah, so on the UK version of Revolver, it had 14 songs, and obviously that's the one we are reviewing, or the way we are reviewing it today. The US Capitol release, which up until this point, this is the last album that was different in the UK and the US, but they dropped 3 Lennon songs, and it's a shame. I think the US version of Revolver is far inferior to this one, in my opinion, but I grew up on the UK albums, but they dropped I'm Only Sleeping, And Your Bird Can Sing, and Dr. Robert, and I think that those are 3 songs that I think it hurts barely to drop.
Yeah, I think there's other songs that they could have dropped from this album that would not have been as detracting as those 3.
Yeah, and I don't know if I could pick 3 songs because, in my opinion, I mean, this is kind of foreshadowing my rating of this album, but I don't find a bad song on this, but I would, if I absolutely had to, those 3 songs would stay on it, and I would find 3 others. Those 3 songs did end up being released on the U.S. album Yesterday and Today. Our last Meet the Beatles episode we did was on the Paperback Writer and Rain singles, and those were actually recorded during the same time as this album. So that's kind of why they have a lot of the same feel and the same sound to them. So this is the Beatles' final studio album before they retired from live touring after their August 29th, 1966 concert at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. And then obviously they got into the studio full time and come out with Sgt. Pepper's not too long after this. So this album did reach number 1 in the UK and in the US both, and pretty much all over the world. Really, I think Rubber Soul being a turning point in their sound. I think Revolver was when they fully embraced studio experimentation and they're going into their psychedelic influences, and that's why I said there was they took a lot of influences from Pet Sounds, and like Tyler said, stepping stone upon stepping stone, and I'm glad they did. But they really build on those ideas in Rubber Soul, and that's why Rubber Soul and Revolver are 2 of my favorite Beatles albums. And that's the other thing about this album is Sgt. Pepper's was considered one of the best albums of all time for so long. I see in a lot of forums and things, more people point towards Revolver nowadays. And it's kind of unfortunate for Tyler because he's not super familiar with this album. And he spent the week listening to it. We listened to it right before we started recording, but I really implore Tyler and anyone else to really listen to this album as much as they can.
I'd say going in, I was familiar with about half of these songs.
And the thing is some of these songs on it, and we'll get to it too, like Tomorrow Never Knows that closes out the album. You got to realize how different that was at the time. We're used to weird stuff now, and things like that, but that was just so much of a departure from everything they were doing. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, no wonder the parents were like, oh, the garbage you kids are listening to. They'd never heard anything like this, and intentionally, a lot of these songs are jarring to the ears.
So do you want to get to side 1?
Side 1.
Side 1.
So side 1 opens up with a George Harrison song, Taxman. Obviously, this is written and sang by George Harrison. It was recorded on April 21st of 1966. Another one of their songs, they leave the count in on it, and it's got some overdubbed guitar and things like that. But it's funny, the famous 1, 2, 3, 4 count in was actually recorded a month after the main session. So I'm not quite sure why they recorded that and put it in, but
as an afterthought, they're going to do a count in.
I guess so. Yeah. So that would be a count in out.
I guess I look at this move in the context of the album as a whole, and it makes sense because I think that they probably wanted to mark that they're starting off something significant, which this album turned out to be.
Yeah. Lead guitar solo on this thing is played by Paul McCartney rather than George Harrison, funny enough, on a George Harrison song. The outro guitar is actually that same guitar solo just played again. It's just cut right back in. You've got Harrison's obviously on the lead vocal and rhythm guitar. McCartney plays the bass, the lead guitar solo, and the backing vocal. He's actually the count-in voice on this. Lennon plays the backing vocal and tambourine. Ringo Starr plays the drums and the cowbell. Now, this is a really interesting song because it's really George Harrison. He's angry. It's his angry protest against Britain's extremely high income tax rates. He was basically frustrated that the government was taking up 95% of the top earners' income. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of a political satire song, but it's also complained about being successful and being punished for being successful.
On the one hand, I understand if you make more money, you can afford to pay more in taxes, and your fair share probably is more than the average person's. But on the flip side, it becomes a little obnoxious when they're talking about taking 95% and leaving you with 5%, right?
Well, that's why a flat tax makes perfect, because no matter what anybody does, you're paying, you just pay your fair share. No matter how much you make, you pay the same amount per every dollar.
Yeah, if it's a 10% tax rate, then for every $10 that you make, you pay $1.
Yeah.
Whether you're making $1 million or whether you're making 10,000.
So what did you think of Taxman? I assume this is one song that you previously had heard and know fairly well.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with Taxman, and this one, there's things about this I absolutely adore. A lot of the lyrics, I mean, this guy's a villain, the Taxman. Like George Harrison, he's writing this, and the way that the instruments are going, there's a subtle menacingness of the musics and to this. And so the tune, it does give you this sense of, oh, here's the song of a villain. One of the major themes of the album Revolver that I find is events in life. And some things are certain. In fact, the first two songs are about death and taxes. And those things are certain, right? And then there's other songs on here that they discuss divorce, they discuss love, they discuss, not being a morning person. There's something that everybody can identify with this because it's common to everybody. And Taxman, I think it's extremely well done. I thought that they opened very strongly right out of the gates. Once again, taking that step back with the countdown or the count in, it fits perfectly because that's what this is. And also a Taxman. He's with numbers, right? He's an accountant. He's there to do counting. I enjoyed the song Taxman. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites on the album. There's a certain sound to this album that rubs me a little bit wrong, and I'm not sure what it is, but even so, it's well done. What are your thoughts on Taxman?
It's funny to hear you say that because, I mean, you're going to rub a lot of the Beatles fans something wrong saying that this album rubs you wrong because, I mean, for me, like I stated before, this is one of my albums.
I'm surprised that I'm still in your basement. I would have expected you to have thrown me out by now.
Well, as soon as we cut recording, yes, there will be blood.
That's right.
But Taxman, I think it's an excellent way to open up the album. I mean, this album especially is where George Harrison kind of come into his own songwriting. He's got 3 songs on this album. So in itself, that's more than what he's ever had.
So I'm curious here. You got Paul playing the lead guitar on a George Harrison song.
Yeah, there's a lot of debate among that, whether it was contentious or something like that, or just Paul could hit it, but it kind of sounds like Paul was just able to hit it. But as we know of all the contention between George Harrison and Paul, who knows exactly what happened, but I will say Paul did an amazing job on that guitar solo. I think it's amazing. I love the guitar through the song. That's the best part about it. I think it's great for the Beatles to do this song because Harrison, being ever so much the pessimist as he is, at least that's the way he seems to me in his writing. But I also understand, all of a sudden you're making all this money, but you're getting taxed at a rate that's a ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, but a good way to open the album.
Yeah, that was my question, is if there was a feelings there with Paul McCartney, but I guess we just won't ever know.
No, I don't know if anybody will ever fully know. I'm sure there's a lot of Beatles experts that do, or say they do, but then there's also a lot of Beatles experts that disagree with those experts. So
yeah,
it's hard to say. So that moves us on to the second song on the album, which is a very popular song as well, Eleanor Rigby. I have 2 puppies I named after this song.
Yes, you do.
So, well, I had a puppy that passed away that was named Ellie, and a new puppy we got that's named Rigby.
That's right.
So I don't know how I come upon that, but just because they sounded like cool names. Not because Eleanor Rigby's my favorite song or anything, but I didn't, everybody has the Jude or the things that are real common, and so I wanted something a little different. But anyways, written primarily by McCartney, of course credited to Lennon-McCartney. It was recorded on April 28th and 29th of 1966. String overdubs were done that same week. Features a string octet arranged by George Martin. No Beatles are playing any instruments on this track. The only Beatles on this track, of course, are James Paul McCartney singing lead vocal, with George Harrison and John Lennon singing backing vocals.
Okay, so there's no instruments other than the strings.
Correct.
Because I was wondering if I was crazy, because when we were listening to this, I heard cello, I heard violin, viola, all the strings. I didn't hear anything that wasn't strings, and so I thought maybe maybe my ear wasn't picking it up. Now I don't feel like I'm going as crazy, at least as I did when the rest of the album played out.
Yeah. Even though McCartney wrote this, he claims later on that he wrote it all. Lennon claimed later on that he contributed quite a bit to it. So kind of goes like that with a lot of the songs. And so we'll never know. But I mean, it certainly is more McCartney driven. And I think you can kind of tell that. And later on, McCartney recalled seeing the name Eleanor Rigby on a Liverpool gravestone. Although a lot of historians kind of debate whether it consciously inspired the lyric or not, or even if that had anything to do with that, or if it was in retrospect. But
there is an Eleanor Rigby buried in Liverpool.
Correct. I mean, this song really sings about loneliness and isolation. You've got the two lonely people, Eleanor Rigby, Father Mackenzie, which in the original lyrics were Father McCartney, but I guess he didn't want to continue with that. Seemed a little...
Yeah, it seems a little personal.
Yeah, kind of. And they live lives of quiet desperation, but they never truly connect, I guess you should say. And
it's really sad because, I mean, the first verse, Eleanor Rigby's having a dream about picking up the rice in the chapel the day that she was married, but it's just a dream. It never happened. She's an old spinster and she's just lonely.
I think this is one of the darkest Beatles songs, and I think the music too. I really love the backing track to this thing. I've heard it without the vocals. You can hear that on the anthology, but the music, just the octet, is a very sad sound. It really evokes that loneliness.
Yeah. Oh, there's nothing that draws out the sadness like a string instrument.
So what did you think of Eleanor Rigby?
I love Eleanor Rigby. This is I'm very familiar with, and here's that song that's also about death, because that's what the second verse is that, well, I guess the third verse.
I think the third, yeah.
Yeah, Eleanor Rigby, she dies. And nobody came to her funeral. How lonely is that you die and the only person that comes to your funeral is Father Mackenzie, and that's just because he's the priest of your parish that's going to bury you.
Yeah, he has to be there.
Yeah. And then as he's walking away, wiping the dust from his hands, like, well, that's the end of her. But he's also back to his own loneliness. And, that's a couple of very strong themes that, yeah, we all live, we all pay taxes, we all die, but some of us are extremely lonely. And there's that, the chorus, look at all the lonely people, where do they all come from? And it's a good question because they are living their little lives in seclusion, surrounded just all alone because they don't really have a social group. It is a sad existence. So it's a song that gets me pensive. It inspires me to think about some of this stuff. What are your thoughts on Eleanor Rigby?
This is probably, I mean, I've known this song for years and years. This is probably the one song, there's two songs on this album, this one and Yellow Submarine, that I would probably say they're the ones that I absolutely love them. Don't take them wrong, because I think everything's perfect on this album, but they're the two I hear the most on the radio. And they're probably, maybe because they're not so guitar driven, I don't put them, it's hard to say because I think this album's perfect and it fits in perfect, but I love this song. I love the loneliness feeling of it.
I'll say it for you, Justin. I think that Eleanor Rigby and Yellow Submarine both probably are two of the songs that could have been left off this album instead of the other three that were left off.
Well, for the U.S. album, but the good thing is we have this album, so I don't even have to worry about it because there's not a single song I would leave off this album.
Yeah.
But I probably would have left Yellow Submarine off before I left, just because it's a Ringo vocal and it's more of a goofy song.
It is. But it's a real goofy song.
But it fits in perfect too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But Eleanor Rigby is an excellent song. I do love it. That moves us on to the next song, I'm Only Sleeping. Now, this was mainly a Lennon composition, recorded on April 27th, 29th, May 5th, and May 6th of 1966. They had guitar overdubs later done on it as well. Now, the one thing this is famous for is having that backwards guitar solo. And it was kind of interesting because George Harrison worked out the notes. He worked out how they would sound in reverse.
Really?
And so he played them kind of in reverse, and then they cut them down. They reversed the tape to play them in reverse of the reverse he'd recorded them. So
that's crazy.
Interesting how he worked those out.
Okay, because what I was thinking when I first heard this was, okay, he's messing around with the sitar because of the way it sounds. But when you say backwards guitar looped backwards, it makes sense.
So he didn't just play a guitar solo and then loop it backwards. He played the guitar solo backwards and then looped it forward.
Oh, wow.
So it was a backwards guitar. It was a backwards loop.
Yeah.
of a backwards guitar solo. So
Interesting.
So obviously Lennon is lead vocal on this. He plays acoustic guitar. McCartney plays bass and backing vocal. George Harrison plays the backwards lead guitar. Ringo Starr plays the forward drums, just so we don't get confused there. There's a lot of accounts of how long it took Harrison to record the backwards guitar part, but apparently a little while. This song is really John Lennon's love of sleeping and his dislike of society's expectations about having to wake up at a certain time or whatever it may be. But more broadly, it's about withdrawing from the busy world and valuing dreams and imagination over just constant activity and doing what everybody else does day to day. What are your thoughts on I'm Only Sleeping? Because I've got a feeling this is a song you probably were not familiar with.
This is a song that I have heard a piece of once upon a time when I was a teenager. And it was just, I got to wake up early in the morning. And it was, I'll tell you, I dig it, Mr. Lennon. I totally dig it. I'm not a morning person myself, never have been. So this is kind of my theme song for life. It's a song that really resonates within me. Message of the song, the theme of the song resonates within me. The instrumentals, not so much. I'm not really digging the instruments, although I gotta say, what's not jiving with me is that dissonance and bending of the sounds that they're playing with in this album. And this is one of the first songs where it really gets into playing with the sounds. And it really isn't that heavy of playing with them. It's just kind of bending a little bit because it sounds like a really drowsy song. They capture that extremely well. I'm not that familiar with it, and I really wasn't digging it all that much, apart from the fact that I'm like, yeah, that's me in the morning. What are your thoughts on this one, Justin?
I'm Only Sleeping. I love this song. It was one of the first songs I learned how to play on guitar. It's a song I've always liked the sound of. I've liked the guitar on it. I think Lennon's vocal is great on this, and something that I probably should be saying on every song on this album is the bass line is amazing in this. And I think this album specifically is one of Paul McCartney's greatest bass-driven albums, or at least one of his first greatest bass-driven albums. I think he does an amazing job on this. So, yeah, I love I'm Only Sleeping. I love the way this album is coming forward, but from what they'd done before and changing those sounds and showing kind of what they're doing in the studio. So for me, this album, I don't know. I mean, how many times I got to say it,
Yeah. I do have a quick question. Do we know whose idea it was to loop the guitar backwards in this?
Not sure whose idea that was. I would be willing to bet it was probably John Lennon's idea to do some goofy tape loops and things like that, and then Harrison put it together, but I'm just guessing on that.
Makes sense just because of what I know about the Beatles.
Yeah.
Harrison's the perfectionist. He's going to work on it, but Lennon is the artist or the creative juice.
Well, and Harrison was known to work out guitar solos note by note perfectly. He was a perfectionist when it come to that. So although it may not have been his idea, and it could have been, but he definitely is the one that worked it out.
Okay.
Moves us to the next song, Love You Too. And what's kind of interesting about this song is it's not two as like in also, it's Love You T-O, too. And I've always been a little bit confused by that.
Yeah,
is it like
love as a direction, right?
Yeah, Love You to the Moon and Back, or I'm not quite sure, but I'm guessing this is another Harrison song, one he wrote and one he sings on. It was recorded on April 11th and 13th of 1966. Now, this is actually has a distinction of being the first Beatles composition fully built around Indian classical music.
Boy, was it.
Yeah, it features the sitar, the tabla, tambura. Obviously, previously on Rubber Soul, they had used the sitar on Norwegian Wood, but this is a fully Indian song, where they used the sitar in Norwegian Wood just kind of as a seasoning to it, to open it up and things like that. This is a song, the one distinction this one also has, not only being Indian, I guess John Lennon did not like that because there is no John Lennon on this song whatsoever.
Okay.
You've got George Harrison on lead guitar, vocal, obviously, sitar. You've got Paul McCartney on backing vocals and tambura. And the tambura is kind of like, it's almost like a guitar, but it's a droning guitar type of thing. It looks kind of like a sitar. It's more of a droning instrument. I don't know that much about it. Ringo Starr played the tambourine, and then Anil Bhagwat, hopefully I'm not blowing the name up, but he played the tabla on here. And the tabla, basically like a style of hand drum. So kind of an interesting thing there. But this is George Harrison really starting to dive into his Indian music and the philosophy of Indian music. The lyrics encourage enjoying love while recognizing that life is short and material things are temporary, which George kind of hung on that a lot for the rest of his life, but he was also a very material guy at the same time. So it shows the dichotomy between the two, but I'm guessing on this one especially, you did not know this song.
Not at all. This was a first for me. If I'd heard it before, I didn't know it was Beatles.
Yeah, I don't think most people would if they didn't know it. What did you think of Love You Too?
It wasn't a terrible song. It wasn't something that I was prepared for because it is really strong Indian music. And so it's got that, I don't know, it's kind of like Indian food. If it's got real powerful flavor, but if you're not used to it, it hits you. It hits you hard.
I love Indian food.
Exactly. And it's good. It's just, I was kind of shocked by it to have it so like, wow, this isn't just some sitar. This is like a full immersion in Indian.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because you get that sitar on Norwegian Wood on Rubber Soul. Where you have the sitar in this, it's the full structure of the song.
It is.
It's the whole song.
Here's something else that I find a little bit strange. Okay, so like India, I've heard a wide range of sounds and notes and tunes come out of India. This song is really monotone and droning in the lyrics or in the vocals. It doesn't have a wide range like I would expect from an Indian song. But that being said, I don't know. I have to dig into this one a little bit more before I can form a hard opinion about it. But my soft opinion is I just wasn't digging it with the vocals. I think last line of it is a very kind and thoughtful thing to say. It's, I'll make love to you if you want me to.
He's at least asking permission. Well, not really asking permission, but
yeah, well, he's just like offering, right? Like,
yeah.
Hey, if you're aroused, I am available.
Yeah, he's at least given the option.
Yeah, I just want you to know that that's an option over here. Oh, man. Now I'm starting to love this song a little bit more. What are your thoughts on I Love You Too, Justin?
Well, I can't blame you for saying that you need to hear it a little more because I've been listening to this for 40 years and I'm going to be completely honest. I hated this song for the longest time, but I've kind of come around to it and now it fits so perfectly with the album. And when you start enjoying the Beatles as a group and what they're doing and how they're changing, and like I said earlier, this is George Harrison coming into his own as a songwriter, you're starting to see the different flavors of each member of the Beatles and their different expressions. And this is George Harrison at the time. It really is, especially on this album and on, obviously, he has a couple more full Indian songs coming on later on. So it's a good song. I think that droning, I think that's him taking Indian music and trying to fit it into some kind of pop sound, but also trying to make it into the oncoming psychedelic sounds that we're seeing. So I don't know. It's just an interesting.
And there is an element of that fits with the psychedelics. So I get that aspect, but as far as trying to make Indian music more mainstream pop, it's a bit of a shove in there.
So that moves us on to Here, There, and Everywhere. Now, this is a song written by Paul McCartney, recorded on June 14th, 16th, and 17th of 1966. And this is a song that Paul McCartney has cited as one of his favorite songs that he has ever written. This was partly inspired, according to McCartney, by Pet Sounds, because he had heard it shortly before writing this song. You've got Paul McCartney on lead vocal and, of course, bass. Lennon and Harrison do backing vocals and acoustic guitars on this, and Ringo Starr on drums, like always. The funny thing about that, McCartney stating that Pet Sounds had an influence on that, a lot of the historians really debate how much direct musical influence Pet Sounds had versus just general inspiration in the air, but I know they were certainly playing off each other at the time, and you can really hear the Pet Sounds influence in the vocal harmonies throughout the whole album, but not to mention this song. But this song is Paul McCartney's really it's about his deep romantic love for Jane Asher. Now, we just got done talking on Rubber Soul about I'm Looking Through You, where he was having problems with her. Apparently they kind of made up, or this is a song written earlier, I don't know, but this is really about wanting to be completely connected to a person you love in every place and every moment. There are a lot of people regard this as Paul McCartney's greatest song ever written. I guess question for you is, did you know this song previous to listening to it this week, and what do you think of it?
The first answer is no, I did not know this song previous to this week going into this. My answer for the second part is this is one of my winners for the album. I mean, Beatles, it's hard to pick losers, but I'd call Love You Too probably one of the losers. And this one's definitely a strong winner. Really high towards the top. I love the theme of it. I love the way it's put together. I love the wall of sounds in this that you're getting from that Pet Sounds influence. So, I always figured there was the Beach Boys that were influenced by the Beatles. I didn't realize that there was some of that in return.
Well, I think it's true going both ways, and I think that's what made them both so great is playing off of each other, and we're going to do the next greatest thing. And then I think something comes out and you love it so much that you want to beat it again and you want to one up it. And I think that's kind of what was happening. Yeah. And I think we're lucky that it did.
Yeah. It's exciting to be a part of that, or at least to watch it, listen to it, because this is all acoustic. I guess there's probably some documentaries out there if I wanted to go and watch them about the influence between the two, but I don't know. This song, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Listening to it. There's some sweet love song lyrics in this where he talks about being able to see love in a person's eyes, and like you can tell how in love someone is even after all those years with the way they look at each other. I think that's so romantic. I think it's so beautiful, and it's very telling. Yeah. I mean, you look at the way that people look at each other after years of marriage and years in a relationship, and is that spark still there? Do they still light up when that person comes into view? It's telling. There's a song later on in this album that we'll get to that's about divorce, and that spark, that love is not there anymore. But this one, it's fully there, and it's roaring brightly. What are your thoughts on Here, There, and Everywhere, Justin?
Well, it looks like we caught Paul McCartney and Jane Asher during a good time. I think this is a beautiful song. I think you hit it on all accounts. The sentiment of the song is great. Musically, the song has a great sound. Shouldn't fit into my purview of favorite songs because there's not a lot of heavy guitar in it or anything like that. But that's kind of the Beatles for me, right? Beatles do not play my favorite kind of music, but their music is my favorite, which is really strange. But a lot of their guitar-driven songs, as we get into some of these later songs, definitely are down my alley. But this song, I absolutely adore it. I think it's just probably the best way to explain it. It's just a beautiful song. And the funny thing this far into the album is every song is so different from each other. So I think that's kind of what makes this album special too. Mm-hmm. So speaking of different songs, we're getting to Mr. Ringo Starr's vocal on this album, Yellow Submarine. Now, this is a song written by mainly John Lennon. And if you go check out the Revolver box set, you can hear a couple of those early versions with John Lennon singing on it, which is kind of interesting. But they obviously chose, I don't know if he wrote it specifically for Ringo to sing, or after trying it a few times, he decided, hey, I better have Ringo sing this. But it was recorded on May 26th and June 1st through 3rd of 1966. This is a session during this song. It's been documented that there was a lot of friends adding sound effects and backing vocals. There was a ton of visitors in the studio at the time. All these guys in the Beatles social circle really contributing to the effects session. And there's a lot of people that remain unnamed who was there. One person I know was there is the famous Brian Jones from the Rolling Stones.
For real, Brian Jones.
Famous member of the 27 Club, but he played the ocarina on here.
Oh, really?
And I'm not very familiar with that. He plays it in the third verse, and it's kind of a flute-like harmonica instrument. I was looking that thing up. It's really strange looking.
I think we've done a song before that featured the ocarina.
Well, we might have.
I can't remember which one it was.
I'm not sure. But you got Ringo Starr, obviously the lead vocal and drums. McCartney plays the bass and the backing vocals. John Lennon plays acoustic guitar, some kinds of sound effects, backing vocals. Harrison plays the tambourine and backing vocals. And this song, I don't know if it's really interesting to say what it's about because nobody really knows, but it's kind of a whimsical children's story about escaping into some kind of imaginary world. Paul's portion of it, that he conceived it as a sing-along with Ringo's friendly voice making him the perfect narrator. So I don't know if that was decided later or during that when Lennon and McCartney were kind of writing it, but a lot of people say there's a deeper hidden meaning into it. Possibly it's a drug song or something like that. I don't know. It's a fun sing-along song, and I've probably told this story on this podcast before. My family, my wife and my two sons, we went to a Ringo Starr concert down in Salt Lake just a couple months ago, and we were sitting really close, second row center. There was a part where Ringo's singing Yellow Submarine. My son, my youngest son to the left of me at the time, was not singing along, and Ringo kind of got upset, pointed at him, and told his ass to get singing. And so my son started singing along, and Ringo gave him the thumbs up and the peace symbol.
And he will remember that for the rest of his life.
He will. It was really interesting. But I mean, this song is pretty much a party captured on tape. It really is. But I love the whimsical nature of it. I know you know this song really well. What did you think of Yellow Submarine?
Yellow Submarine, this song, it's weird and it's funny, and I should love everything about this song. It comes across as a kid song, as a kid sing along. It really does. Therefore, I don't really see this fitting on the album that well. And I think I see why people are like, oh, well, it has to be some sort of metaphor for a drug or a drug state or something. And it sounds too innocent. It comes across as too innocent to be a drug song. So I just have to think that this is, and maybe this fits in with the theme of the album. Maybe it fits better than I thought it did. Because
I don't really think there's a theme to this album, though. I think
you don't think so.
I really don't. I mean, I get what you're saying. You say it's life. I think because the Beatles are coming into their own. Obviously, they've been amazing songwriters, but I think what's happening is now they're starting to write so much more about their own lives instead of just simple love songs and things like that. I think that's why it seems somewhat thematic, is because they're writing about their own lives, and anytime you write about your life, there's going to be something going on, whether it's marital problems or you're just in love or you're in love with marijuana or you apparently like to deep sea dive in a yellow submarine. I mean, it's all just normal day-to-day shit.
And maybe John Lennon just really liked the songs and the little sing-alongs that he would have as a kid that they would get from primary school, and so he wrote one, a little sing-along that you could take to a primary school and get all the kids singing along.
Well, yeah, and I said that I don't know if they wrote this primarily for Ringo, but it kind of seems like they did.
Yeah.
Because this is a Ringo-style song. He always sang kind of the little bit goofier songs and more thematic songs.
Yeah. And I love him for it. And
I know you do. Your favorite Beatle.
Absolutely, he's my favorite Beatle, and this is one of the reasons why. So I'm jealous of your son for seeing Mr. Ringo Starr, and let me tell you, if I would have been there, I'm not really the sing-along type myself, so he probably would have been scolding me as well, like, hey, Ty, start singing. I would have been like, well, you want to come on our podcast? We have a whole Beatles-themed, series called Meet the Beatles.
Yeah, we want to meet one of the Beatles.
Yeah, definitely give that invitation to him. The way that Yellow Submarine plays out starts off with this kind of like sea shanty kind of tune to it, and it's very much sounds like the song of a sailor. And then it gets into like, that we all live in a yellow submarine, and there's a whole bunch of sound effects in this. This really is a party in a submarine that's had a microphone thrown into it. There's all this silliness, and the second time that it came around, it sounded almost like a baby crying to me. So I'm like, okay, so you got an infant somewhere on the studio that's crying, and no, that's just John Lennon.
So this is a drug song.
It could be. And so it certainly fits in with the theme of side 2. But this being on side 1 still, I don't know. I still want it to be just kind of like, oh, this is part of life. But what do you think, Justin?
There isn't a whole lot I can say about Yellow Submarine. I love the song. It's a great sing-along song. I think the movie is amazing. If anybody hasn't ever seen the animated Yellow Submarine movie, the fake Beatles accents and stuff in it are great. It's just an amazing movie. This is a great song, and I think it fits perfect for what Ringo is, and it shows what the Beatles are. They can have a serious song, and then they can have this just kind of child anthem. I wouldn't even say a child anthem, because even if it is a drug song or whatever it is, it's fun to sing along to. It really is. Yeah, excellent song. And I think it fits in perfect with this album, but that's because it is on this album and I know the album so well. So that brings us to the last song on side one, She Said, She Said. This is a song written by John Lennon. This was recorded in one single session on June 21st of 1966, and that was the last day they recorded anything for the Revolver sessions. Now, this song was inspired by a comment by the actor Peter Fonda. Apparently made it he was having an LSD experience in Los Angeles, apparently, and he made a comment. He had said, "I know what it's like to be dead," which is part of the lyrics in this thing. It really inspired John Lennon to write this song. This is also the song that's really famous for the fact that McCartney reportedly left the session following a disagreement with the band. I don't know if that was with Harrison or Lennon or all of them or whatever, but most historians agree that George Harrison played bass on the finished recording, but that is a little inconclusive. So you've got John Lennon on lead vocal, rhythm guitar, and organ. George Harrison on lead guitar, backing vocals, bass. Ringo Starr on drums, and no Mr. Paul McCartney on this song as far as what most people know, but those accounts do differ. So what are your thoughts on She Said, She Said, and is it a song you knew?
This is not a song that I knew. I'm really shocked to hear that you had one of the Beatles wasn't even in the studio for the recording of this. That's quite shocking. This song's a real mind bender of a song, very much a forerunner to the psychedelic rock era. It feels like an LSD trip, or like it's doing some mind bending. It's a druggy song that she knows what it's like to be dead. Yeah, I get that with the Peter Fonda reference now. I'm like, okay, so that is something that somebody who's really drugged up is going to say. Yeah, it's not really my dig. I'm not really big into some of these mind-bending psychedelic songs. But that being said, it's not the worst song that I've heard that's a psychedelic rock song. It's a pretty decent song for what it is, for what they've done with it. It is a whole lot of sounds, and they're not in tune with each other. They're just kind of bending, and it's weird to me. But I don't know. It's just something that I'm not very familiar with. I've tried it a few times here, not tried the drug, but just tried listening to the drug song, and it's not finding, I haven't acquired the taste. How about that? What are your thoughts on this one, Justin?
Yeah, so this is the point where I kick you out of my basement.
Mm-hmm.
No, I love this song. I think this is the perfect example of this whole album, the guitar tone in this thing, and that's what I love the most about this. I think you're doing what you always do, being the lyric guy and thinking, okay, she said, you find out it was a drug-fueled reference or something.
Yeah, and letting it ruin it for me.
And so it ruins it for you. I'm listening to music. This is where I love the guitar tone, and that's all I can say about this whole song is guitar tone, guitar tone, guitar tone. I love it throughout. It's probably the weakest performance of the bass on the whole album if you really listen heavily, and not that it's horrible, but it's not quite as melodic as it normally is, and so I think that does lead credence to it not being Paul McCartney playing it, because he seemed to like to play a little more melodic, bass line. So, but yeah, I think this is an excellent song. I think it kind of belongs on side 2, but it has more of the sound and tone of side 2 to me, but it is what it is. So excellent song, an excellent way to round out side 1 on this album. So that's side 1 of Revolver. We'll of course be back next week with side 2 and our final review of the album. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please send us an email at classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com. We really appreciate taking your time to listen. And we do have one thing to mention. We are starting a new podcast all about the Beatles, and it's called Revolution, a Beatles podcast. It'll be me and Tyler here and my son Austin is joining us. It's going to be just kind of a deep dive if you really want to get deep into the Beatles and talk about everything. We get a lot more technical than we do here. I mean, we can take a couple hours talking about one song, obviously. It's not quite as simple and jumping through it like we do here, but that's coming out on all your popular podcasting platforms on Wednesday, September 9th. And once again, it's called Revolution of Beatles Podcast, so please check us out. But until next time, we'll see you later.
We'll see you.
Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates, and also share us with your music-loving friends.